Next up in my new to me distillery series is Chattanooga whiskey with their bottled and bond bourbon. I'm Captain Mike, this is Whiskey and Literature, and I talk about whiskey and books. I feel like I've been in a whiskey rut lately, buying the same bottles year after year, just new batches. So I've trying to go broader in my whiskey exploration, trying to find new distilleries to meet that have bottles that will become shelf stable or distilleries to avoid. We'll see how it goes. Chattanooga whiskey is not a distillery that I don't think anyone's recommended to me, but for some reason I have a positive thoughts about them. Maybe I've seen a reviews on some YouTuber somewhere that I've kind of forgotten about, but I've always had like positive vibes from this distillery. So I'm glad that I'm doing this series this year, which forces me to try new distilleries, including Chattanooga whiskey. Chattanooga whiskey is, of course, a Tennessee distillery. You can read all about their relatively new history on their website, but their vintage series, Bottled and Bond, first came out in 2021. What they do differently is they call their whiskey Tennessee high malt whiskey, using at least 25% specialty malted grains. And they chose not to label their whiskey Tennessee whiskey, and that would require them to go through the Lincoln process or charcoal filtering, which they do not do. And they meet the criteria that I've set forth for this series in that they are available, affordable, and they distill their own whiskey. Okay, specs and stats for this bottle specifically. This is the spring 2020 batch of their Bottled and Bond Bourbon Vintage Series. It is consisted of 5 high malt whiskeys. There is malted rye, malted wheat, and malted barley. On the back of the bottle, there are some codes, and you can go on their website and search out exactly what the mash bills are of the 5 whiskeys that they blended together for this Bottled and Bond whiskey. It's bottled and bond, so 100 proof, non-chill filtered, 4 years old, and I paid $49.99 for this at Total Wine. And my idea for this new to me distillery series is that in order to give you the best possible review, I want to be approximately halfway through each bottle before filming, and I also intend to keep these videos as short as possible. On the nose, this whiskey hits with a rich cereal note, vanilla, oak, and honey. On the palate, it delivers a subtle rye spice and cinnamon, followed by a doughy, sweet honey roll. It delivers all of its 100 proof. It's a bright and light pour. The finish rounds out with the spice giving way to a sweetness. It's not overwhelming. It's more like a complement to the spice. It's like a not too sweet roll with caramel and raisin. In the end, I'm super happy with this bottle. And this is another win for me in the new to me distillery series. I do think that Chattanooga whiskey is in some respects opposite to a lot of the large distilleries in that they put out different whiskeys. Like if you buy Jack Daniel's Bonded a couple years ago and then today, it is essentially the same whiskey. And for some guys, that's what they want, right? They want when you buy the Bonded, it's the same as it was last time. It's consistent, it's good, and they enjoy it. With Chattanooga whiskey, if you bought the spring 2020 Bottled and Bond, and you were like, man, I really enjoy this whiskey. And then you see later, you buy the fall 2020 of their vintage series Bottled and Bond, and you're like, wait, why is this totally different? And maybe you're like, well, I like it, but I really wanted that spring. Like I wanted that flavor profile. So what they do differently is they're experimenting and doing different pours or different blends. And for some guys, like I like that, right? I mean, I like that when I buy the Jack Daniel's barrel proof rye. It is kind of the same. It's consistent. It's good. And there's some variation in the single barrels and in the proof levels, but it's essentially the same whiskey. The 2020 fall version of theirs. It's a completely different blend. So it's going to be a different whiskey and it's going to hit different. So again, some guys like that, some guys don't. I'm a fan. I do like consistently, you know, I can have the Woodford Reserve double oaked. I can buy it this year, I can buy it next year, and essentially it's the same whiskey. But you know what? Having a little variation, variety is the spice of life, right? And that's where distilleries like Chattanooga whiskey, they come in. So, you know, I'm happy with this. Certainly these guys they've earned a place on my shelf. So essentially, I think I'm 4 for 4 for my new distilleries this year. All the ones that I've tried, they've hit all the right notes for me. And I'm looking forward to, as I go through this year, trying new distilleries. And next up, actually, for me is Dickel. I have a bottle of that, and I'm working my way through it, and that review will be coming up. And if you have any suggestions for new to me distilleries, also, because I'm still kind of looking, because I made an initial list of distilleries, and some of them I've already eliminated from that list for different reasons, and some of them so I don't quite have enough to fill out 2 every month. So if you have a suggestion, it just needs to be available, like in my local area. It needs to be affordable, like, you know, whatever that means to you. And it needs to, I prefer that they distill their own whiskey. That's a big deal. Or at the very least, they get that whiskey and they do something radically different to it to make it their own. Hi guys, thanks for watching. This is one of my last videos here in the house. I don't think this is quite the last one, but it is almost the last video in this house. I've been saying we're going to tear it down in the next for quite a while, but we're turning the power off on this house tomorrow, and it'll be coming down very soon. But thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, like it. Is free. Subscribe to see more of my content. Again, I do both. I talk about whiskey and books. But for now, my friends, you know what to do. I hope you're reading something good, drinking something great, and wear a damn hat. Cheers.